India is witnessing a luxury market boom right in front of our eyes. From Louis Vuitton to Michael Kors, Gucci, Prada, and many of these international brands that we cannot even pronounce correctly the first few times. They are cementing a place not only in our hearts but in our homes and lives as a whole. The Indian luxury market was worth about $2.5 billion in 2021 and now is expected to be at about $8.5 billion in 2023. That's a more than 3 times increase in 2 years. Not only that, but Bain and Company has predicted that the Indian luxury market is going to reach about $200 billion by 2030. Now, we're talking of all these numbers, but what is actually going to drive or what is currently driving the demand for luxury goods and services in India, specifically when the market segment, the audience, the clients and customers, they're price sensitive. What is actually being a catalyst in the growth of luxury market in India? Now, there are a few reasons for the growth of luxury market in India. First, let us understand the Indian mindset towards foreign brands. Now, whenever we hear the word imported or a luxury brand's name, we automatically think that that is of a premium quality and we automatically compare it to Indian brands. We think that just because it is a foreign brand, superior to an Indian brand in terms of quality, even if the foreign brand that we're talking about is mediocre at best. Now, keeping the mindset, the Indian mindset towards foreign brands aside, let us also talk about some other significant factors, and one of which is huge. It's income. Now, let us talk about the GDP per capita of India. In the year 2000, the GDP per capita of India was about $442, and in 2022, it was $2389. So that's almost a 6 times increase in the GDP per capita. Not only that, but the number of households that made about $10,000 to $35,000 in 2021 is also going to increase from 24% to 46% by 2031. Another important factor that we need to consider in terms of finance, in terms of money, is the fact that the number of millionaires is also going to increase by 69% by 2027. So not only is the luxury market going to include the rich and the ultra wealthy people, but it is also going to significantly target middle class and upper middle class segment of India. And on top of that, India is a relatively young country with a median age of about 28 years. Now, when we are talking about this young population, it is important to note that it is only this young population that is going to drive up the demand for goods and services, because these goods and services, specifically the luxury goods and services, are targeted towards this particular age group because they have the most money. They're making a lot of money at this age, right? So they have the money to spend on luxury goods and services. Another important factor here to understand is the presence of social media, and might I include the impact of social media during and after the pandemic. The power and the presence of social media in the lives of Indians has increased after the pandemic, so much so that the number of influencers has also increased, and a lot of the young generation, specifically the Gen Z as well as the millennials, they spend a lot of time on social media platforms. Not only that, but they also take advice from influencers that have a significant presence on social media platforms. Now, these are the same influencers. Many of these influencers, they partner up with luxury brands and promote their products and services to this audience. And since those products cater to the audience, a relatively young audience, they are influenced by these influencers, and as a result, they aspire to become just like them. They want to dress up like them. They want to have a similar personality, spending their money on themselves to look better, to feel better, and to be better. That is what sums up social media and the pandemic factor combined together. Now that we've talked about the pandemic and social media, let us also talk about the increase in the trend of shopping online. A lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, we spend our time on our phones, so much so that we have also started ordering anything and everything online. From ordering food online to clothes to anything else, it has become easier to order anything with just a click of the button. There has also been an increase in the number of online sales of goods and services ever since we came out of the pandemic. So that is also a huge factor that plays an important role here. Now, with all of that being said, we are also living in times where it's easier than ever to access a credit card. We're living in an economy of buy now, pay later, which gives us access to all of these goods and services which would have been difficult to purchase or access without having a credit card. We're living in the easiest of times to access money and make money right now. Another important factor, specifically in the Indian context, that I want to talk about is the Indian wedding industry. Now, the Indian wedding industry is the fourth largest industry in India, and in just the last 2 months of 2022, about $46 billion was spent on weddings. And this is an industry wherein people spend about $130 billion every single year. And this amount is only going to keep on growing. When we're talking about the wedding industry in India, we're not only talking about the average Indian wedding, but we are also talking about the big fat Indian wedding. Now, what do I mean by the big fat Indian wedding? I'm talking about the weddings of the ultra rich or the ultra wealthy people in India. To put things into perspective, the most expensive wedding in India that took place was of Isha Ambani and Anand Piramal. Now, Isha Ambani is the daughter of the richest man in Asia, Mukesh Ambani, and about $86 million was spent on that wedding. Celebrities and performers were invited to perform in the wedding. Beyonce was a performer and celebrity that attended the wedding and was paid about $15 million for a 45-minute presence on stage. Now, let us also talk about the average Indian wedding. Now, when we are talking about the average Indian wedding, the average Indian wedding costs somewhere between 20 lakh rupees to 2 crore rupees. That is somewhere about $25,000 to $250,000. That's a huge bracket that we are talking about, and that includes everyone from different economic backgrounds of society. And as I mentioned earlier, the GDP per capita of India is about $2,400, and we are willing to spend 10 times of our annual income on a wedding, right? So that is how big of an event a wedding is in India. So all of these factors are contributing and will contribute to the growing demand of luxury goods and services in India. Now, let us also talk about the important players, the big Indian players involved in the luxury segment game in India. Let us talk about Aditya Birla Group. Now, Aditya Birla Group is one of the biggest conglomerates in India and has recently partnered up with Galeries Lafayette, which is expected to bring about 200 luxury brands in India. Another important player in this particular segment is Reliance. Reliance has partnered up with some of the biggest brands in the world, brands like Tiffany, Burberry and Giorgio Armani. Reliance has partnered up with 60 odd brands, more than 60 brands. The third important player in this segment is the Tata Group. Tata Group has partnered up with about 12 to 13 global brands and is expected to expand its business and partner up with many more brands to level up the luxury segment game in India. And there are many other players that are going to become a huge part in this particular industry. We're talking about multi-billion-dollar companies and groups that are going to take over and compete for the top spot in the Indian luxury market game. So, what do you think about the growth of the luxury market in India? Do you think that we are going to witness an exponential growth in the coming years, or is it going to be a linear growth? Or we may even witness a dip or a fall in the demand for these luxury goods and services? Let me know your thoughts below. If you enjoyed watching this video, please share it with your friends and family and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching this video and have a great day.